I've always said that if there came a point in time in this race where I couldn't see a path to accomplishing that goal, that I would get out. And it's clear to me tonight that there isn't a path for me to win the nomination, which is why I'm suspending my campaign tonight for President of the United States.
That's right. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has announced that he is dropping out of the Republican primary race. And that's definitely understandable when you consider the fact that he never really did well in this primary election. He was really there, in my opinion, to be the critical voice among the Republicans toward Donald Trump. And now we're noticing that there is a shrinking field less than a week before the Iowa caucus takes place. Here's more from Chris Christie's announcement.
I know, and I can see it from some of the faces here, that I'm disappointing some people by doing this. People who believe in our message and believe in what we've been doing. I also know, though, it's the right thing for me to do. Because I want to promise you this. I am going to make sure that in no way do I enable Donald Trump to ever be president of the United States again. And that's more important than my own personal ambition.
Listen, this is beside the point, and maybe I shouldn't comment on this, but I can't help it. That is the saddest looking group of people on the planet. And my heart breaks for the lady on the bottom right-hand corner who looks like she's about to break down. I want to give you a hug. Let's bake pies together. It's gonna be okay. Let's hang in there. She looks like a sweet lady. I feel really bad for her. She looks really distraught. But anyway, according to Project 538, Christie ended his campaign with only 3.6% support among the GOP electorate. So what does his departure from the race mean now? Well, this could potentially boost Nikki Haley, who has also very selectively criticized Donald Trump, but she's been far more cautious. Chris Christie came in guns blazing. That's why I feel like the whole purpose of him entering the race was to try to cut Trump down, and it didn't work. It really didn't work. It could have maybe worked if the other candidates were willing to engage in similar attacks, but everyone else is so terrified of him, but more importantly, terrified of his base. They're trying to attract his base. And so I do think that the MAGA movement is pretty dominant among Republican voters. And I think I see that playing out with how this primary election is going. So when you think of who that 3.6% of Republican voters are likely to go to now, I do think that Nikki Haley, who's more representative of the Chris Christie, end of the Republican political spectrum, would attract those voters. We'll see. Now, Haley and Christie have both overperformed, if you want to call it that, among self-described independents in polls ahead of New Hampshire's January 23rd open primary. But that doesn't mean that this is definitely going to help Haley, right? Or that he even wanted to help Nikki Haley. Christie has been resisting calls to drop out and make room for Haley to grow her support further in recent days, arguing that she was damaging her candidacy by pandering to different audiences and by refusing to rule out becoming Trump's running mate. But I honestly kind of disagree with Chris Christie because she's actually experiencing a surge in the polls. So obviously pandering to whatever group happens to be right in front of her on any given day seems to have played out well for her. Now, eventually, I think that it's probably going to end up hurting her. And one thing that's been pretty clear to me, and this is basically anecdotal, based on media figures on the right and what they've been saying about Haley, MAGA ain't into Haley. They look at her and they see the old guard of Republican politics. They see the neocons, they see the endless wars. They don't see the kind of populist rhetoric that attracted them to someone like Donald Trump in the first place. So I do see Nikki Haley as someone who's trying to have her cake and eat it too. She does tend to pander to whatever audience happens to be right before her. And I don't think that she is ultimately going to get the GOP nomination, despite the fact that she's experiencing a surge in the polling right now. And remember, Donald Trump just started attacking her pretty viciously. And he did do a pretty good job dismantling Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis has refused to drop out. He still thinks he's got a chance. He's gonna play this out through the caucuses in Iowa because he thinks he's got a good chance in Iowa. We'll see. But I do want to go back to Chris Christie because he was caught on a hot mic before the live stream of his event. And he was bashing someone very specific. Let's watch.
People don't want to hear it, Wayne. They don't want to hear it. We know we're right, but they don't want to hear it.
Right.
And there's, we couldn't have been any clearer.
Right.
We couldn't have been any more direct or worked any harder. So,
And let's not forget she spent $68 million.
Yeah.
I mean, we've spent like.
Well, when you give land to China and places like that.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Yeah.
I mean, look, she spent 68 million so far, just on TV. Spent 68 million so far, 59 million by DeSantis, and we spent 12. I mean, who's punching above their weight and who's getting a return on their investment, And she's gonna get smoked. And you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
She hasn't even been
And
challenged.
she's still 20 points behind Trump in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he's still gonna carry Iowa, right?
Yes, always. I talked to DeSantis called me, petrified that I would.
He's probably getting out after Iowa.
Well,
DeSantis called you. I would have liked to hear a little more from that conversation, from that hot mic moment. How do you have a sensitive conversation like this and not really consider that you should maybe check to make sure you're not still mic'd? Anyway, but clearly he's got issues with the way Nikki Haley is carrying out her campaigning. She's doing well right now. Again, it seems like right now the GOP primary is all about who's gonna win second place, which is laughable because second place doesn't matter in the primary elections. What matters is who ultimately is the victor, who's the winner, who will end up being on the Republican ticket. And so far, Donald Trump's lead is so significant that even Nikki Haley, even the surge that she's experiencing right now, doesn't even come close to, in my opinion, making the MAGA world concerned that he might not get the nomination. And you do have some on the left, on the Democratic side, thinking that, well, there is a possibility that the indictments could destroy Trump's candidacy. I wouldn't hang my hat on that either. But in terms of what Haley has done so far, she has really taken a page out of the old GOP playbook. She's sucking up to the corporate donors. The corporate donors love her. They shifted away from Ron DeSantis to Nikki Haley as a result of her typical traditional neocon rhetoric. And so it'll play well for her right now. It remains to be seen if it's going to lead to a continued surge in the polling. If I had to bet my money on it, unfortunately, I do think that the general election will come down to Donald Trump and Joe Biden, since he refuses to allow for a primary, refuses to maybe reconsider running as an 81-year-old man who's deeply unpopular. So buckle up. We've got one of the worst general elections to look forward to if it is in fact the case that Donald Trump and Joe Biden end up being our only two options.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us, become a Young Turk.